the saga with Christian Horner currently under investigation by Red Bull Racing's parent company, Red Bull, looks to be heading towards a conclusion this Friday, with multiple news outlets reporting that Christian Horner will face a hearing regarding these so-called allegations that have been made against him. Now, what's interesting is more news has come to light regarding what these allegations surround, and they're not necessarily what you may have thought initially. To begin with, these are all about how he operates as I suppose you could say, CEO and a team principal of the Red Bull Racing team. And it seems the claims were put in by a female member of the team, while in the meantime, Horner has been carrying out his regular day-to-day duties as CEO and team principal of the team. While on the subject of how you conduct yourself in a workplace in terms of how you treat your fellow members of staff, Williams team principal James Vowles has just given an interview yesterday on this very subject.
The sport itself, wind back 20 years ago, male dominated without question. If you had to ask me what makes up a team, it will be white, more than likely, male, more than likely 40 years old and something in that ballpark. That's changing, and it's only a positive that's changing that result. I can only control what happens within Williams. And what I can do within that environment is open everyone's eyes to this is how we have to be. Because the best ideas don't come from being a closed group of individuals, it comes from diversity. These allegations are allegations. I'm afraid I don't have any understanding of what is behind them and the significance of what has happened. All I can say that should this ever happen in our regard, we'll be entirely supportive in terms of fixing it and making sure we have a culture that's accepting of everyone.
And as you say, these are allegations, and allegations he's denied. But if the net result of them, again, whatever the result is, were to be Christian Horner leaving the sport, you have here the man who built up Red Bull, the most successful team principal arguably right now. What would that mean?
Again, I think it means we all have to look each other in the mirror and make sure that we are posing the right questions internally and acting in a way that we can only be proud of, not today, but in the next 10 years.
Those remarks by James Vowles are sentiments I think we should have across the entire world, across every kind of facet of life and of civilization. And I think that's how we should conduct ourselves. So that was very eloquently put by him. Now, naturally, by the end of Friday, I would presume we will all know the outcome of this internal investigation, which is carried out by independent legal representatives. And it's going to have a dramatic impact on the team if it comes to a negative end, with Horner being found guilty of these allegations and then of course having to leave the team. But what do these potential consequences have, and how wide reaching and far do they go regarding the team and its future? Well, we can look at this from a short, medium and long-term perspective. Starting from a short-term perspective, they would lose one of their key members and one of the key core ingredients to the success they've had over the last 3 seasons and, of course, in previous generations of Formula One cars. This would leave a huge hole with the team, having to fill with, as it currently stands, Jonathan Wheatley, who is a very well-known and senior member of the team, to step into the roles of Christian Horner as team principal and, I would say, on top of that, CEO. Or perhaps they will split the duties between Marko and Whitley. But this will have a knock-on effect for the team for the entire season, because they no longer have that mature and hugely experienced member that can get them through any kind of trials and tribulations that may arise throughout the season, and the general direction, the updates and everything goes. And I think that would be a huge loss in the short term. And I don't particularly think with how they currently are as a team, it would be a huge loss. I think if we're looking more medium to long term, I think that's when the gulf left by him would be a massive loss to the team. And away from all of that, there are other certain far-reaching consequences with certain individuals within the team. Having stated if Christian were to go or if Helmut were to go, they would leave the team along with them. And let's just get into that very briefly now. There's a internal power struggle within Red Bull's hierarchy away from the racing setup after the tragic death of their owner Dietrich Mateschitz. Essentially, the majority of the Red Bull board runt him out, with the head of that kind of committee, if you want to call it that, Oliver Mintzlaff, the managing director and former boss of RB Leipzig. He is the main instigator of this. Not least because, as it's being stated, he has become too senior and too expensive for their liking. But on the other side of the coin, the Thai contingent of the board aren't so sure, and that, of course, is headed by Chelem Yovidia, son of Red Bull's co-founder Chelio. So yeah, that is where the power struggle herein lies, and there's been talk about this is the whole reason behind this particular episode, which is currently being carried out in public. But away from all that, it's been stated if the core three, Horner, Newey and Marko, if one were to leave, all three would end up leaving. And even today, there's been massive rumours surrounding Adrian Newey ending up leaving the team and rumoured to end up in Ferrari, with even his very own wife liking a tweet saying, he will end up with Ferrari and with Hamilton and finally get to work with those kind of two iconic brands within the realm of Formula One. And then if you take those three key members out, where does that leave the team? Yes, they have their infrastructure, but they have no one to steer the ship. Who is going to be that new captain of the team? How are they going to steer the ship? And I think that would be the major loss, because they lose one of the best team principals out there, two, the best car creator in the history of Formula One by an absolute country mile. You lose those two things, you're going to end up in a bit of a massive hole. And now we come to Max Verstappen, the key driving ingredient of this all. He has been on record stating if Helmut were to ever leave the team, or in a sense forcibly pushed out, he would be along with him. He would go as well. And now could you imagine Red Bull lose their star driver? He would easily find another seat on the grid with any of the big teams. So that is another major issue they would have to contend with. But yeah, very, very turbulent and rocky times for not only Christian Horner facing these allegations, but the Red Bull team and brand as a whole. And come this Friday, it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out and in whose favour. Everyone, that is the video. I hope you've all enjoyed it. If you have, leave a like, and I will see you all in another Formula One video.